Happy New Year, everybody. Today is a really big day for me. Today I'm attempting to start my very first project of 2025 and also my very first project after my maternity leave. I use the word attempt on purpose because my almost 4-month-old baby is sleeping in the other room, so we might have to cut this short. But if I manage to do a little bit today, I'm still going to be very happy. So my plan it is to knit a cardigan. I've never actually knitted a cardigan on my knitting machine, so this will be very exciting because I know some of you actually asked me to knit cardigans and to show the process, so hopefully we can all learn something from this. I have a cat at the door. Anda, fava. Salud. I already chose my yarns and I have knitted my tension swatch, so I'm ready to begin calculating my gauge. The yarns that I'll be using for this project are a cotton and a merino wool, and I'm going to use them together to achieve a thicker fabric. I will also be using my plating feeder so that the cotton comes to the back of the fabric and the merino wool comes to the front. I'm doing that so that we get a nice and even finish, but also so that it's not scratchy at all on the skin. Even though merino wool is quite a soft yarn, sometimes it still can make you a bit scratchy. All right, excuse you. I can just count my stitches from this area here above the stitch, and I can count my rows from here, as it could be quite difficult to count stitches and rows within the stitch as we're not seeing the stitches properly. We've got 25 stitches per 10 centimeters. We have 37 rows per 10 centimeters. So my gauge therefore is 2.5 stitches and 3.7 rows per 1 centimeter. I can use these numbers now to convert my measurements from centimeters to stitches and rows. This is a cardigan that I crocheted a while ago and I really like the fit of it. It's quite oversized, so it's really good for layering. The only things that I would like to change maybe is the length of it. I'm going to add a few centimeters and I'm going to make a round neck instead of a V as we have here. So I think these are the only things I want to change. I like the fit of it. I like how the sleeve is quite oversized as well, so it's pretty nice. I like this cardigan. So let's measure it. I'm going to roughly draw a sketch of this cardigan. I'm ready to begin measuring the cardigan that I'm going to use as a reference, and I'm going to write all those measurements down on this piece of paper. Like I said, I would like the new cardigan to be slightly longer than this one. This one is about 47 centimeters, so I'm going to make the new one 50 centimeters. And when it comes to the neckline, I have a different cardigan that has a round neck, so I took measurements from that one, and I know that the width of the neckline will be 20 centimeters. And for the front, the depth will be 12 centimeters. And for the back, we have again 20 centimeters wide. And we only have 5 centimeters depth. And the back will be 50 centimeters and the front will be 25 centimeters on each side. The distance between the point where I'm going to start the neckline and the hem, I know that that will be 38 centimeters. And for the back, I know that will be 45 centimeters. I know it doesn't look beautiful, but it's exactly what I need. I have all my measurements now. I'm going to show you exactly how I'm converting all these measurements to stitches and rows, and I'll begin writing the knitting plan, and hopefully this will help you make a cardigan for yourself. So let's begin with the front. We know that we have two sides which are 25 centimeters each. So I'm going to calculate 25 times 2.5 stitches equals 62 stitches. So I'm going to write down 62 here right next to the number, so I know that this is centimeters and this is already stitches. For the back, I'm going to do 50 times 2.5 equals 125. And now I would like to know how many rows I have to knit from the bottom to the part where I'm going to begin the neckline. For the front, we have 38 times 3.7 rows equals 140.6. I'm just going to do 140. And for the neckline, for the front, we have 12 centimeters. So we're going to do 12 times 3.7 equals 44 rows. And the width of the neckline is 20 centimeters. 20 times 2.5, 50 stitches. Moving on to the sleeve, because this is the flat image of the sleeve, we know that is actually double. So I'm going to do 36, so double this. 36 times 2.5 equals 90 stitches. The sleeve is 37 centimeters long, so we're going to do 37 times 3.7 rows, and that is 136.9. We're just going to do 137 rows. And the width, again, we have 14 centimeters, but we need to do double that. So we have 28 times 2.5 equals 70 stitches. Let's do the back as well now. Here we know that we have to knit 45 rows until we start the neckline. So we have 45 times 3.7 equals 166 rows. Neckline is the same, 50 centimeters wide. And then we have 5 times 3.7. It's 18 rows for the neckline for the back. And now that I've converted all the measurements to stitches and rows, I'm ready to begin doing the knitting plan, and I'm going to show you exactly how I'm going to do that. We will begin with the back. So we know that the back panel is 125 stitches wide, so I'm going to write down cast on 125. Let's do 126 so it's an even number. And then we will be knitting 166 rows straight up to the point where we're going to begin our neckline. And what I like to do normally when I begin a neckline is to set the row counter back to 0. And we know that from here we have to knit another 18 rows. So I'm going to write down knit 18 rows for neckline. Okay, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to plan those. Let's just draw the neckline here one more time. Normally when I have to shape a neckline and it's the front of the garment, what I would do is I would cast off half of the number of stitches in the very center, so it will be the straight part here, and then I will decrease the remaining half of the stitches on the left and on the right side to create the gradual curve. But for the back, because we have a smaller number of rows, we have to cast off more stitches in the center, so more than half. So let's say that for this example, we will cast off 36 stitches in the center, and we will decreasing the remaining number of stitches, which is 14 stitches. So that means we have 7 on each side. And now I can plan already on which rows I would like to do these decreases. So let's say we will do 1 on row 0, 1, 2, 4, 6, 10, and 14. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 decreases in total. And then we will be knitting straight rows until row 18. Now moving on to the front. And for the front, like I mentioned before, we will be having 2 panels. So we will cast on 62 stitches and knit 140 rows up to the point where we're going to begin our neckline. And then again, we will be setting our row counter to 0, and we have to knit a total of 44 rows for neckline. And the neckline for the front would look something like this. We have to cast off 26 stitches in the center, so half of the total number, which is 50. I'm doing 26, so we have even numbers. And that means that we have to cast off 13 stitches here, and we will decreasing the remaining stitches, which is 12, to form the gradual curve. We will be doing a decrease on row 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 16, 20, and 24. So as a rule of thumb, what I like to do is some decreases every 1 row, some every 2, and some every 4. And we will be knitting straight rows from row 24 until row 44. Moving on to the sleeve. I'm going to draw the sleeve again just so we can see a bit better. For the sleeve, I know that I have to cast on 70 stitches. Let's write that down here as well. We have to cast on 70 stitches and to increase until we have 90 stitches in 137 rows. Cast on 70, we have to knit 137 rows. Looking at the numbers, we can see that we have to increase from 70 to 90. That means a total of 20 stitches. But when we are knitting sleeves, we are going to increase on both sides, and that means that we have to do 10 pairs of increases. And to calculate that, we would normally divide the number of rows that we have to knit with the number of pairs of increases that we have to do. And I know that I will have to do 1 increase every 13 rows roughly. So now I can just write down those numbers on row 13, 26, 39, 117, and 130. So these are our 10 increases. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then from here we'll just be knitting 7 more rows straight to finish off the sleeve. I really hope that that was not too difficult to follow and that you can use this example to see how you can do these calculations for a project of your own. I know it could seem quite a lot at the beginning when you do it for the first time, but once you practice with a few projects, you will see that it's actually quite simple. You know your gauge, you know your measurements, and you just have to do the conversion. And once you have your knitting plan written down, you can just begin knitting and get to the fun part. So this is what I'm going to do next. I'm going to make sure to write all these instructions into a document so you can see them a bit clearer, and you can download those on my Patreon for free. And if you want to watch a tutorial for the stitch that I'm going to be using for this cardigan, you will also find a video on my Patreon. This is a new style of videos that I'm trying to do, a bit more kind of like a lesson rather than a tutorial where I'm only doing voiceover. This is more me just talking freely and explaining it as I go. So hopefully this will be even more easy to follow, and yeah, let's just get to knitting now.